right. Good day, comrades and friends. Dr. Gabe Roberts, the quantum chiropractor, the subconscious healer, new thought minister, and your expert in energy medicine. Thank you for watching or listening on your computer or your phone or whatever device you are using this evening. You are taking time out of your day to join me, and you could have easily been doing something else. It's a weekday. It's cold in many parts of the country right now, and many of us are winding down for the close. And yet, here you are watching this webinar. I think you're here today to learn something which will help you improve your life in some form. So as you sit there watching, easing into your chair, making yourself comfortable, I invite you to relax, because we learn things best when we're relaxed and paying attention. I am a minister, a doctor of metaphysics, a doctor of chiropractic, a clinical hypnotherapist, functional medicine practitioner, and a self-sabotage coach. And my specialty is working digitally with people who suffer from psychosomatic illnesses, autoimmune, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, digestive illnesses, and a host of mystery conditions that all have at their deepest root repressed emotions. There's no such thing as an emotionally healthy person who has any type of chronic illness. We all know people today who are challenged by some type of illness, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a neighbor. And I'm sure we all agree it's very sad for so many people to have these challenges preventing them from living their best life. Now, a short disclaimer: this information you will hear in this presentation is strictly for educational purposes and is designed to correlate with what you've learned from previous webinars. So I recommend, if you have not done yet, so make time to watch those, because in previous webinars, I discuss the subconscious mind in depth and how it is the spiritual side of us and how it binds all known matter together. Today's webinar is discussing effective prayer and how to use prayer more successfully. New discoveries and advancement in research are correlating with what ancient scriptures and gospels have indicated for millennia. They suggest that the power to change our bodies and the world around us is based on the power of belief. Now, before we begin, I just want to define a few things very quickly about the word belief. Let's be honest here. There's two kinds of beliefs. One you are consciously aware of and one that you aren't consciously aware of. The issues I've experienced in helping people resolve their challenges is that when we say, I believe something, another part of us says, yeah, right. Or maybe it's not a voice at all. It's a little unpleasant feeling that you get in your body. You know, initially what happens is, let's say a person with several health challenges says to themselves, I believe I am healthy. Or someone who has self-esteem challenges. So they go out and they read a book about developing confidence and they say to themselves, I am confident. And they actually try to believe it. At first, there's an excited feeling that comes up. Then, in the background, there's this little nagging, uncomfortable, subtle yuck feeling, maybe a subtle pull. That is an introduction to the subconscious beliefs that you don't know about, and they're what's running your life and holding you back. Most people assume that their dominant thoughts are the ones that they're thinking right now. Not even close. Your dominant thoughts are not the ones you're aware of. They are not the ones you're paying attention to. Your dominant thoughts are the beliefs, experiences, and feelings below the threshold of conscious awareness that are always active, always running, even during your sleep. These are responsible for keeping you stuck in life. Because if you get an idea in your mind and you try to act on it, but your body believes another contrasting view, it's likely that you're trying to go two directions at once. And this is why many people don't follow their dreams or achieve vitality in their health. They're hitting the up and down button on the elevator at the same time. These beliefs cause a vibrational frequency that attract into your awareness things that resonate in harmony with those beliefs without your permission and without your consent. It's like you have two pianos in the same room. Hitting the C chord on one immediately causes the other C chord on the other piano to vibrate. Disempowering beliefs attract other disempowering beliefs. Life cannot be navigated successfully without the knowledge of spiritual law and the harmony between the conscious and the subconscious mind. What makes this even worse is that we aren't even aware of how to find these things and that we don't know we even have. At the conclusion of this video, I'll give you some suggestions on what steps to do to locate and properly eliminate unhealthy, unconscious beliefs and begin to develop what I like to call rapport with your subconscious mind. One of my proxy mentors, a New Thought minister, had a man come to him and say he was deceived out of $15,000, and he asked how he could get it back because the man had dropped dead and was completely broke at the time. My mentor reminded him of the laws of the mind, that all transactions take place within the mind. In other words, you cannot lose or gain except in the mind. The man began to rehearse. I am spiritually identified with that $15,000, and it comes back to me in divine order. These words directed in such a way leave an impression on the subconscious mind, and whatever is deposited into the subconscious mind is amplified into space. A relative of this man passed away a month later and left him $20,000. A soldier in Vietnam had phoned his mother, and he was very distraught. He told her that the doctor said his foot had a very severe infection and would have to be amputated. She said, wait until morning, and in the meantime, I'll pray about it. His mother was a very wise spiritual woman, and she affirmed the following: my son in Saigon is known in divine mind. The surgeons are God's men, and God is guiding them to do the right things. The healing presence of the living God flows through my boy, vitalizing, healing, restoring, transforming his whole being. His body is God's body. His life is God's life. And the infinite healing presence which made him from a cell is now making him whole and perfect. And the healing love of God saturates his whole being. And God is in the midst of him, healing him now. She went over this quietly in her mind, using no effort. You use no effort in prayer. It's not possible to add power to omnipotence. She had surrendered this prayer to the divine and knew it was impossible for her prayer to fail. The next morning, the doctors came to see the boy, and the gangrenous foot had completely healed. His mother's prayer had channeled the God force to heal it. A medicine-free hospital in Beijing in China, 1970. There was a woman there who was diagnosed with an inoperable 3-inch bladder tumor. Standing near her are 3 Chinese physicians trained in spiritual healing arts, and they're able to produce immense feelings within their own subconscious mind, fully and completely convincing themselves that she's already healed. By producing these feelings and saying this prayer, wasa, 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 over and over again, roughly translated, already happening, already happened. The tumor completely disappeared in under 3 minutes on an imaging screen that they were viewing. They actually watched this take place on the screen. This video used to be on YouTube. Maybe some of you listening today have seen this amazing feat. These doctors are interpreting the process is already done in their mind and in their heart. Now, these are far from isolated events. There are spontaneous healings that occur all across the globe, many at Buddhistic shrines or Shinto shrines or other places throughout the world. Anyone who thinks at all, or even has the slightest understanding of the spiritual side of us, realizes that there is some principle behind it all. There is only one healing power that's responsible for all of these, not 2 or 10 or 1,000. All healings are spiritual. This is why people are healed by the bones of saints, relics, amulets, and charms. If a person has the belief that it's the bone of a saint, although in some circumstances it's actually been replaced by a dog bone, they get a healing just the same. Spiritual healing takes place when the combined use of your conscious and your subconscious mind is scientifically directed. In a hospital in India, there were 15 paralyzed people, some of them completely paralyzed for over 10 years. A large cobra came through the window. The snake was the only resident in the ward in 30 seconds. The power was always there. Why do they have to wait for a snake? In clinical papers that I've reviewed, a diabetic, a person suffering from severe depression, and a person who endures chronic pain were all given by a perceived medical authoritative figure a new cutting-edge drug that has shown promising results in the trials. All 3 candidates showed remarkable improvements. They were all given a sugar pill. Their ability to heal was always there. Why did they have to wait for the pill? The spirit inside of you cannot be paralyzed, cannot be sick, cannot be limited to the limitations of our physical body. How else could Sesaba Kirikis set the Guinness World Record for walking 200 meters on hot coals that were 1,600 degrees centigrade? Lauren Kornacki lifted a BMW off of her father after the car toppled off of a jack while he was underneath it. Or Wim Hof, able to swim under ice nearly a distance of 60 meters. All of these occurrences without injuries. Dr. Hamlin from London gave his account of a man who lived near him. This man had poliomyelitis and was crippled most of his life. He had 2 sons, and a fire took place in their home. He threw down his crutches, placed both his sons on his shoulders, and ran down the stairs. The power was always there. No one ever told him about the inner power. The idea to save the lives of his sons at all cost seized his mind, and all the power of the God force flowed to that focal point of attention. Joe Dispenza was struck by an SUV while biking in California, shattering 6 vertebrae and leaving him quadriplegic. Turning down surgical recommendations from leading orthopedic surgeons, he began directing his spirit to reconstruct his spinal cord completely, giving him the ability to walk, run, and jump without limitations. In every example here, the power of God was released because their attention was diverted away from their problem, and they were fully focused on the solution. And all the power of God flows to that focal point. The utter simplicity of these occurrences is that the presence of God is in your subconscious mind. Nothing could be simpler. You can use any power in the world 2 ways. So as you sow, you will reap. The law of life is absolutely honest. It's eminently fair. It's absolutely just. It plays no favorites. All of us make our own heaven or our own hell. You may have noticed that there's no such word as hell in the Bible. It is an English word. You're told in the New Testament except by parable speak he unto them. Parable means parabolus, that which lies alongside, or the inner meaning of it. The Bible says a certain man had two sons. Millions of people have two sons. It's not talking about two sons. It's talking about the conscious and the subconscious mind. When the Bible mentions a husband and wife, it doesn't mean men who have beards and women who wear dresses. It's referring to the principle of the male and female that's within us, mainly the conscious and subconscious mind. The Bible is not talking specifically about cities, towns, or people. It's talking about you. All the experiences in the Bible are experiences of you. It's meant to tell you how you can get in trouble and how to get out of trouble. Both the Old and the New Testament gives you guidelines with clearness. If one gives hate, he will receive hate. If one gives love, he will receive love. If he gives criticism, he'll receive criticism. If he cheats, he'll be cheated. If he lies, he'll be lied to. The imagining faculty leads a major part. And if you've kept up with my previous webinars, you probably get that this means the subconscious mind. What a man or woman images, sooner or later externalizes into his physical world. There are ancient instructions which were very clear on how to create healings, create peace, or create miracles. First, we must feel as if the miracles had already happened, without ego and without judgment. Now, this is very difficult to do in Western culture. One such text was edited from the Christian Bible and is known as the Lost Gospel of Thomas. This powerful text is said to have been the actual words of Jesus as he was teaching people about how to use human emotion during his life. Within this text are the instructions which read that to unleash the God force, we must first understand how it works, which we will see shortly that science tells us exactly how it works. Secondly, we must speak a language that the divine understands, which is much more difficult to determine scientifically. So to determine this, we must examine the past from cultures and history, from those who have learned how to use this language for thousands of years. When we look at what the ancient wise men and philosophers and scholars have passed down, whether we're looking at Buddhist, Hindu, or Christian, they all give the explanation that we are part of this field of energy. And within inside of us is a language to access this field. The Buddhist monasteries in Tibet contain texts which indicate feeling is the prayer, that we must feel as if our prayers have already been answered. In Egypt, there's a monastery called St. Catherine's Monastery, which contains the Nag Hammadi Library. And this holds the Lost Gospel of Thomas. The Lost Gospel of Thomas says, when you make the two, which are thought and emotion, one, you will say to the mountain, move away, mountain, and the mountain will move away. So combining thought and emotion into one, which is the blueprints for how the subconscious works, it being the emotional mind, of course, creates a powerful energy, which in the exact mechanics are exactly how to speak to the field, which we've now come to understand as the quantum field. We have scientific evidence of this power stated here in peer-reviewed literature. It states human emotion defies conventional laws of physics. Very interesting. The Lost Gospel of Thomas continues by stating, if the two make peace in each other in this one house, which means the conscious and the subconscious being in harmony within the human body, They will say to the mountain, "Move away, mountain," and it will move away. These are the words of Jesus telling us that if our conscious and subconscious mind are in harmony within our body, we generate a powerful force enough to produce miracles. Another important part within these instructions is something which is much more commonly known as it is in our current Bible: ask and ye shall receive. Well, there's a good chance that you've heard this before, and what may even be more compelling is that many people today have actually asked and asked and asked and never received. This is simply because asking was not performed in a language which the divine recognizes. To properly ask, we must ask in a speech which the divine recognizes, which is not of words, but of feelings, feelings within our heart, and they must be congruent. The body generates a huge torus field around it, measurably, scientifically validated, around 8 meters in diameter, that circles our body. When our conscious and subconscious mind are harmonious, this produces a wave that the divine recognizes. And when you look back at the examples I had just shared with you previously, this is how they all occurred. Every one of these cases had individuals who successfully merged the thought with the feelings and had completely convinced themselves, both consciously and subconsciously, to believe it had already actually occurred. The power that moves the world is within man. My mentor told the story of a man who came to him, and he said that this man was about to give a lecture in front of 1,000 people. This man had just lost his voice. My mentor knew exactly what it was, and he began to look at his throat to examine his mouth with some instruments. He was a psychosomatic doctor. Psyche means the soul. Soma means the body. Nothing happens in the body without first taking place in the mind. He began to swab the throat, and then he had told the man, "Now this will relax your throat." Do you know what he used to swab his throat? Distilled water. He used no intervention, no herb, no medication. He knew it was all fear and panic, fear in which contracted his muscles. Now, I've read archives of people healed at Buddhistic shrines who offer oranges and money to a statue. These people are documented in citations of having remarkable, miraculous healings. The same things happened in Buddhistic shrines. They've never heard of Jesus or Mary or Joseph or anything else. They are healed by their expectancy and their belief. Their imagination is fired, and they're full of expectancy, and they have blind faith, and their subconscious heals them. Their own subconscious is the only healer in the world. The surgeon removes the tumor or block, and he says, "Nature will heal you." The hypnotherapist tries and removes the guilt and anger from your mind, and when he does, the healing power is released. Chiropractors try to manipulate your neck and let the healing power flow through you. No one in the world heals you. The healing power of God is within you. He or she may use a different technique or modus operandi. They're all tapping into that one healing power. No one heals by a different healing method than you do. There is only one method according to your faith, and it is done up to you. The voodoo doctor in South Africa gets healings as well. The primitive Kohana in the Hawaiian Islands also gets a healing. There is only one healing power. And again, according to your faith, it is done up to you. So, what exactly does this mean? Is there any sort of scientific validations for all these claims? Professor John Wheeler from Princeton University describes the act of observing the universe is what makes it what it is. The act of us observing the world which we live in is actually what makes it what it is. He uses the term participatory universe. That means we are not merely existing on a rock called Earth and have no role or contribution to influencing the world around us, but just the opposite. Now let's look at this idea a little closer. There are particle accelerators constructed by scientists, Hadron Colliders, and these are the largest machines ever built at 27 kilometers in circumference. These machines are designed for speeding up the tiniest bit of subatomic matter to just under the speed of light, to smash them forcefully into other particles and shatter the matter into the tiniest particles. And they're all going after the hypothesis that somewhere they will locate the smallest particle of matter, and they never find it. Every time they think they find the smallest particle, they look and there's always something there to observe. The basis behind all this is being unable to find the smallest subatomic particle is because of what John Wheeler declares. The act of us perceiving with our hearts and with our minds and expecting to see something will always create something for us to see. The act of us looking with the expectation that something is there is an act of creation unto itself. Now, this is a scientist saying that consciousness created our physical universe. Conscious observation also causes subatomic particles to behave in completely unpredictable ways. The quantum field, as I mentioned before, is an invisible field which contains unbound energy and information, as well as a form of intelligence or consciousness. Nothing physical or material exists here, and it's beyond our ability to detect this with our senses alone. However, this is what physicists contemplate as the force that governs our laws of the universe. This realm is immensely filled with infinite levels of frequency and energy which vibrate beyond the physical world of matter in waves and potentials for us to use in creation of whatever we want. What exactly can we create from these enormous potentials which exist in a vast sea all around us? Well, it's up to us, because the quantum field is a state which all possibilities exist. All known matter can exist as either an electron particle or a wave of energy. Researchers shockingly discovered that just the act of observing and focusing, actively looking for something, makes energy convert from a wave to a particle. When they take their attention off the particle, it immediately converts back to a wave. In other words, the particle of physical matter, which is the electron, can't exist until we observe it or give it our full attention. So quantum physics tells us that everything that's ever has been and ever will be is right here available to us. Why do we not see it? Well, it goes back to the beliefs that we have written in our own mind. How many times do people pray for something while at church, only to get in their car, drive out of the parking lot, and begin to worry about what they just prayed for? They start to wonder about all the possibilities of how the outcome will turn out, and they do not fully surrender their desire to a higher consciousness. They focus on the problem that they just prayed about instead of releasing it fully and completely. Now, follow me close here, because this is important. If focusing with the expectation that something exists is what creates that something, then what are the possible consequences when a person is conditioned to look at their body every day, searching and scanning, examining it every day, looking for an anomaly or something to be flawed or wrong, looking constantly for a lump, a discoloration, a cough, fever, an ache, a cold, or whatever it might be. Now, I'm not saying to ignore your body's signs it shows you, but just be very observant of your state of consciousness while you're looking. Think back to the prayer that mother said about her son in Vietnam. What was she observing? What was she feeling? What was she hearing? What was she seeing while imagining these healing forces flowing throughout her son? She gave no attention to that infection at all. There must be no verbalisms. In prayer, you give no power to any external thing, virus, germ, or atmosphere, stars, or jinx, or anything. The minute you do, you cease to be a scientific thinker. You don't give power to anything created, nothing in this world. You give power to the Creator. When a man gets cancer, fear seizes him. When he says, I'm finished or I'm done for, his cells in his body are hearing all of this and will act accordingly. It's only a manifestation of fear. Fear is man's greatest curse. There's a term today used in Western medicine known as medical hexing. This occurs when doctors unconsciously say things which interfere with healing or cause people to get worse. Now, be mindful that Western doctors and all their training, they only see a very skewed sample of sick people. Oftentimes, they see very sick people. And in this overall group, healing is less likely to happen. So the term healing is something foreign to them. Be mindful of whose hands you place your care in when it comes to doctors. Never stay in treatment with a doctor who thinks you can't get better. Within the 38th chapter of Ecclesiasticus, which is part of the Apocrypha, it says, honor the physician, for the Lord hath created him, and there's healings at his hand. It also says that the Lord created the healings also in herbs. He created medicine out of the earth, and be sure you do not reject them. Remember what the Creator left for us in terms of nutrition and medicinal properties and food and components from the earth, not the ones which are man-made. There are certain states of consciousness where disease does not occur, where poisons do not kill, and microbes do not cause illness. I read a story written by a PhD who had visited the Bermuda Islands. He visited a man over 100 years old. This man ate everything on the table. He smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and he drank a pint of whiskey every day, and he loved the women. And when this doctor asked him, what's the secret to longevity? He replied, well, it's very simple. He said, I have no grudges, no peeves, no resentments, no hatred. Every time when I open my eyes in the morning, I say, this is the day the Lord hath made, rejoice and be glad in it. Biblical. Then he said, I say for about 15 minutes every morning. The rejuvenating, revitalizing power of God Almighty flows through me like a golden river, revitalizing, transforming every atom of my being, so that every atom of my being dances to the rhythm of the eternal God. He found the secret of life, joy, inner peace, the invisible ingredients. You see, the human being is designed to pass energy and information through it. You are not a human bee. You are a human being, which insinuates that you are a process of processes. In Chinese medicine, we say anytime energy or information stops in the body, you have pain, you have illness, you have a disease, you have tension. Now, there's a universal principle here. The things that bother us are the places in the body where there's stuck energy. The worst place we can keep it is locked inside. You see, most people don't have damaged hearts. They have troubled hearts. The heart is the seat of love and emotion. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. And with my heart I truly seek thee. See, the heart in Hebrew symbolism, they wrote the Bible. It means the subconscious mind. That's all it means. And this is the basis for all religions across the globe. It is what you believe in your heart that is made manifest, not what you believe in your head. Ideas which are emotionalized, felt as true, and impressed in your deepest mind, usually from ages 0 to 6, whether good or bad, must materialize into the screen of space. That's the only religion in the world. In other words, man is belief that is expressed. It is done unto you as you believe. The only thing you ever experience in life is what you believe subconsciously. The body has an amazing ability to heal. Any bone, muscle, or nerve which has been injured will heal within 6 to 8 weeks. If there's pain after 2 months anywhere in the body, it is stuck, unresolved conflict of energy within the unconscious mind. There's a vast body of verified evidence that shows this time and time again. Dr. Reichhammer, who you heard me mention before previously, proved this by working on people's unresolved conflict within their subconscious mind and has a court-documented, verified 92.3% success rate in curing cancer. There's no such thing as an emotionally healthy cancer patient. Dr. Joseph Ryan of Duke University, known all over the world, founded the peer-reviewed Journal of Parapsychology, which covers telepathic abilities, clairvoyance, precognition, psychokinesis, as well as human consciousness. The Psychical Research Society of Great Britain and America are known and established for nearly 140 years. These are some of the most distinguished scientists in the world in the psychic field, including men who were knighted, such as Sir Oliver Lodge, Sir William Crookes, and William James in America, the father of psychology, and several others who were knighted and honored for their work. When the Mathematical Society of America, which included some of the most prominent and respected groups of scientists, looked into some of Dr. Ryan's experiments and his research, they found they were completely valid. No fraud, no hoaxes, no scams. The words we use have a direct impact on that unified field in the universe we are all connected to. Everyone has psychic connections and powers in the world. Everyone. How many times do you lift up the phone and say, "Oh, it's you. I was just thinking about you." Relatives are always communicating with each other through the psyche. And subjectively, we are picking up the thoughts, beliefs, and feelings of 7.4 billion people today. And in order to keep good rapport with your own subconscious, keep prayed up. Regularly practice meditation, prayer, mindfulness, or self-hypnosis. In past webinars on my Facebook page, I described several scientific examples illustrating these connections between all biology. There's some interesting experiments that show how states of mind influence people in our vicinity, like neighborhoods or local districts. Lynn McTaggart actually has demonstrated that when people in groups go into a state of prayer or meditation, such as in Washington, D.C., and remain there for a period of time, the violence and the crime rates drops massively. Now, this has been duplicated successfully over 50 times across the globe. I believe that many people spend way too much time worrying and stressing about things that are just fear-based and not living to their fullest potential. My mission is to get as many people feeling better and in more control of their own life and their own health, both mentally and physically as possible. All disease is an absence of tranquility, no matter what the problem is, no matter where the complexity is. You'll never meet someone with a disease who is emotionally healthy, ever. Its root cause is a group of negative thoughts and beliefs, charged with fear and misapprehension, lodged into the recesses of the subconscious mind. The quickest, surest, and safest way is prayer. Prayer, when done correctly, gains access to the subconscious mind. This is why you're told, the truth shall set thee free. Prayer is very simple, and with the purpose of filling your subconscious with the truths of God, these truths neutralize and annihilate all the negative patterns which cause the embodiment to disappear. You eradicate the cause. Hundreds of thousands of cells are dying every second, constantly in our body. And as you spiritualize your thoughts, the cells take on a spiritual overtone. They no longer take over the diseased-soaked patterns. This is the basis of all healing. You have a new body every year. The Bible says, go thy way and eat thy food with joy. You can eat the choicest foods in the world. Use all your vitamins, your minerals, your herbs. And if you're resentful, angry, full of guilt or criticism, that food will be turned to poison. Now, there are correct methods of praying other than what we've been taught to do. We've been conditioned to pray for things we don't want. If your brother or father is ill in the hospital, don't focus on the symptoms, pains, or aches. You do not think of the physical body at all. Do not see with your inner eye of understanding your father in the hospital. You see him at home, having joy, vital and alive, and he's telling you how thankful he is for you. You pray for him. My Father's known in divine mind. Infinite intelligence made him. I didn't. This miraculous healing power is flowing through him, vitalizing, healing, restoring his whole being, and his molecules dance to the rhythm of the divine. He is one with harmony, health, and peace. Then you understand that it's in the infinite intelligence hands. When you think of him during the day, you never see him in a hospital. You are focusing him there. If you're reflecting on his pains or his discomfort, you're amplifying them. Many family members do more harm than good when they pray for their loved ones, not out of spite, but out of ignorance. They're usually focusing on the pains, the aches, discomforts, and the symptoms. When you pray, your picture in your mind must match what you're affirming. Therefore, if you're seeing your father in the hospital, in your mind, you're not praying correctly. The vision in your mind must match the words you are speaking. Now, you know how to do this correctly. You know how to do this scientifically, how to do it in a language the divine recognizes. If you believe there's a germ, a virus, or a cancer or something out there that can kill, destroy, never pray about it. You are giving it power. People who pray for loved ones who are ill usually are praying and insisting that their prayers be answered in their particular way. Pray the correct way. Stop telling God his business. If you're praying for a family member who could be struggling, perhaps with a health challenge, maybe a grandmother, say this: my grandmother is known in divine mind. The infinite spirit which created her. It's all wise, it knows all, it sees all, and its infinite healing presence which created her gives her freedom, peace, harmony, and joy. I surrender her to God, and God cares for her. Then when you think of your grandmother again, pray for her again this exact same way. Your perception of her freedom and her peace will be picked up by her subconscious mind. Now, if she goes home or if she goes in the next dimension, understand your prayer is answered. That is the way the infinite answered your prayer. You surrender her to the divine and don't begin to tell God its own business or what it should do. This is how you pray. In praying for any person, you claim what's true of the divine and true of the person, and anything other than that is not praying. Now, an educated person in spiritual law will visit no graveyard because there's nobody there. The tombs and all the Bibles and the holy books across the whole world are all vacant. Why seek thee living amongst the dead? Biblical, Luke 24. Socrates' disciples who followed him around but never heard his message, he taught, asked him, Master, where should we bury you? He looked at them sarcastically and replied, You foolish people can bury me any place if you can catch me. How could they possibly catch him? Visiting a graveyard identifies you with feelings of lack, limitation, and finality. This will cause you to build a cemetery in your own mind, causing all the organs in your body to begin vibrating incoherently. Why don't you give the flowers of your heart to the person right where you're at? They're there. They're surrounding you. Love frees. Love gives. Love rejoices in the new birthday of God. If you begin to think of death in another person, everything in you begins to die. Death is in us, not the other person. Dr. Zach Bush told a story, having worked in a hospital for several years and having the experience of resuscitating perhaps thousands of people, that each and every person who came back from the dead in the hospital were extremely angry. They were angry because for the first time in their life, they entered a complete state of bliss, love, and unparalleled joy. Suddenly, they come back to a hospital bed full of tubes, perhaps with broken ribs from CPR that they just had done, and they all, without exception, express complete despair. Celebrate the loved ones going to the next dimension because it's total bliss for them. Now, I shared a great deal of information with you today on how to make prayers more effective. To summarize this information, ensure that 3 steps are taken. Number 1, build the image of what you want in your mind. I gave you an example of seeing your father at home, vital and joyful. That's getting clear on what your intentions are. Number 2, turn it over to spirit. Impress the intention into your subconscious mind. Now, this requires a complete state of relaxation. Every person, without exception, who's ever merged ideas into their subconscious mind, whether it's through prayer, meditation, self-hypnosis, energetics of mindfulness, they've all had one thing in common: altered states of consciousness. If you can't alter your state of consciousness, you're not going to gain access to the unconscious and impress the beliefs or idea into it. And you won't be able to alter the vibrational frequency which you vibrate at. If you don't change your vibration to match the unified field, you won't be able to influence the divine. Remember, you must believe in it in your heart, not in your lips. Number 3, expect. Turn it over fully and surrender it to a greater consciousness. Let go and let God. Oftentimes, we get in the way of our own manifestation by not surrendering fully. This again revolves around our deepest beliefs which we hold, as I mentioned earlier. After I described that most of our beliefs are the ones below the threshold of the conscious mind, it is pretty normal to wonder to yourself, how do I change these unconscious beliefs? As you sit here and listen to this entire webinar, hearing the different prayers, noticing how the words were directed and noticing how you were paying attention to the specific direction of the words, there were some valuable things to learn from this webinar. And for some of us, learning something that will help us is exciting. learning to do something new that is powerful and feels good that we can really own that. We can all learn new things deeply and quickly and learn to change things that we're holding on to, like deep feelings or illness or limiting beliefs. Now, it doesn't mean that these beliefs are bad. It's not that those beliefs mean something's wrong with us. It's just what we are thinking at that time, based on the information we had. Wouldn't that be true? If you think about it, most of what we believe was based on who we were and what we knew at the time. Isn't there always something we don't know? Isn't there always some level of information that could change the way we look at things? So when you change your perspective, when you change how you see the world, and you realize that all a belief is a decision. It's just the way you were thinking at that time. You can always change the way you were thinking, can't you? I find that most people do need a little more in-depth work when it comes to effectively praying and fully clearing out limiting beliefs. Many of us are not able to alter their states of consciousness effectively to gain access to that subconscious self. And I do wish that there was a simple formula that would fit everyone's needs. However, the truth is our individual programming in our subconscious mind is as unique as our fingerprints. For example, if 5 people are experiencing disharmony within themselves at the unconscious level, each one will have a different root cause for it, as well as their own belief system, different upbringings, different value system. And all these needs to be incorporated for the exact root cause to be properly resolved. Now, I've created a do-it-yourself workshop that is taking some of my most successful strategies I've used in my practice and putting them together in very simple series. This will include a powerful self-interview to help you identify your blind spots of where sabotaging or limiting ideas are often hidden, a comprehensive list of emotional barriers, a video explaining the visual diagram of the mind, which has been one of the most powerful tools I've ever incorporated into practice because it really allows you to bring order to your mind and how the mind works, as well as techniques for gaining spiritual harmony and showing you how to achieve altered states of consciousness effectively, which is very necessary for this. As an added bonus, you'll get our 30-day of healthy living course valued at $199, absolutely free. The workshop itself is retailed at $149. However, if you order this workshop by Saturday, you'll receive $50 off. The complete workshop is valued at over $399. Now, as a bonus for being here today, tomorrow, you'll receive an email with a powerful prayer used for forgiveness for yourself and for others. Thank you for joining me tonight.